Thanks for joining me on the podcast. Today's guest, Mr. Mathew, is the CEO of Emerging, a really diverse hospitality company that's investing in supply chain, in really hot, fast-growing concepts, as well as technology. Everything that's happening and trending, and even the things that are yet to come, they're involved in. So it's a really fascinating conversation, and we're going to talk about what is the foundational elements of really successful restaurants. And we're going to talk about key performance indicators and financial performance and building leadership and teams. And how do you really grow a concept from one to multiple and then scale it? What are the necessary elements there? So we cover a lot of ground. You're not going to want to miss this episode. If you haven't already heard, I have a course called the Restaurant Profit Maximizer. And it's literally teaching you the biggest needle movers that are really going to make an impact in your bottom line. It's a short course. It's about 40 minutes. It's a video you watch, and you can immediately action some of these ideas to increase your profits multiple ways. Now, the best part about it is it's, less than the cost of a craft beer or a fancy coffee. Yep, just $7. So head on over to restaurantrockstars.com/profit maximizer and check that out. Now, on with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Beaudoin.
Rockstars. In my restaurants, the fried foods were cranking out of the kitchen. But dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease, what a hassle. Not only the high cost, but the mess of changing and recycling oil, scheduling cleanings. You've got more important things to run a great restaurant. Well, that's where Restaurant Technologies comes in. They serve 40,000 restaurant and hospitality customers in 41 major markets across the U.S. They handle everything end-to-end, from delivering, filtering, monitoring, collecting, and recycling your waste cooking oil. No more mess, safety hazards, workers' comp claims, or fried food quality issues. Plus, this frees up your labor and the cost to work on what matters, putting out the best food. Restaurant Technologies also eliminates the need for scheduling third-party hood cleanings. AutoMist can reduce the risk of fire with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. Restaurant Technologies customers can save 10 to 15% on their insurance premiums and even get bonuses for any new customer referrals. Control the kitchen chaos with Restaurant Technologies. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started today. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. So glad you're here. And Mathew, welcome to the show. Glad you're with us.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. Thank you.
You got a really dynamic background, and we're going to dive into Emerging and what it's all about. But before we do, tell us about your hospitality story and why you've got a passion for this business.
Yeah. It's interesting. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, on basically a boating town. There was more boats than people, 42,000 boats in a town of 10,000 people. So hospitality became a big part. It was all food and beverage. And I went to engineering school in Cincinnati. And I thought I wanted to be a master plan developer, community developer, because it was those town squares that had that kind of that small town, that feel that I had as a young kid, getting on the bike and going anywhere in town. And I saw the master plan developers at the time. My Toll Brothers, I accepted a job out of my engineering school, my MBA with Toll Brothers in Fairfax, Virginia. Then I saw this developer in Columbus, Ohio. We're called Steiner and Associates, who was building Easton Town Center, 1,200 acres. And it was the restaurants and entertainment that were the lifeblood of this development. The town square, beautiful Brio. I was sitting on the square, a Cheesecake Factory, all these chains you think of today, but they were driving the traffic, and it wasn't the traditional department store anymore. So I fell in love with restaurant operators early on. They were more quirky, entrepreneurial, scrappy, more interesting than the retail guys that were living life. They find the entrepreneurial American dream in a lot of ways. I find the restaurant guys doing that. So I just started helping them, supporting them. Using the engineering hat, kind of a data approach, and then ultimately that data approach of supporting them in real estate expansion led to me to get in some rooms I probably didn't deserve to be in at a young age, but ultimately leading to strategy on a national level with a bunch of great operators.
It is definitely a business of passion, and there's every facet of hospitality out there, and you got your hands on the pulse of so much of it, and I really can't wait to dive in because I had a chance to visit some of your concepts that you're invested in, and there's definitely a magic formula there. But I believe systems are foundational in order to scale a
Mm.
business. What are your thoughts on taking a single location? You might have had success in that single location, whether it's the concept or the cuisine or whatever it is. And most owners or operators will think, hey, if it works here, it'll work there, it'll work in that town, this city, whatever. But it takes a lot more than just having a thought of, I got one successful place. What's your best advice on scaling an operation and growing it 3 to 5 to 10 and even bigger if that's what your dream is?
Yeah, it's a good question, Roger. I really, end of the day, as much as you might have the magic of the concept, you might have the menu that you think is perfect. You have the atmosphere that is vibrant and just everybody wants to rave about and visit. It's really comes down to the team and execution. I find awesome concepts that you would swear are just going to crush it nationally, and ultimately they fall short, or another team of inferior, I think, experience that finds executes so much better and builds scale so much faster because it comes on the team, not necessarily the atmosphere of the menu. So I think we all know that everybody talks about the team, but it's really about making sure you have a team that really is gritty and wants to really grind it out and passionate about building a brand, traveling and making sure they're finding those sites and building their complementary partners that are going to work those late nights. And I think you got to end up with giving equity. And the best operators that I see are not trying to manage a chain. They're trying to empower their team bottom up versus top down. And a lot of that happens like the Texas Roadhouse model. Texas Roadhouse had 27 positive comp increases. Nobody else has done that. And the reason why they've got to do that, because they have a profit sharing, they call it market partner program. Outback Steakhouse actually created it, but the private equity guys drove it out, and Texas Roadhouse stayed with it and made it better. And it shows in their model. But that is that mentality of empowering your people, sharing the profits with your leaders, and to build a national brand is really, I think, you got to have that guy that thinks at the local level, but also have the systems at national scale. That helps.
I'm really glad you mentioned those two words. I heard leader and I heard empower. And I'm on a mission to change the mindset from that management that's an overused term, because managers are not true leaders in every case, or they may be, but new emerging people that really need to develop their leadership skills are those that get the most out of their people. But right now, the biggest question on every operator's mind that I talk to, that I hear about on a daily basis, is this crazy labor challenge that's been post-pandemic, when so many people left our industry and now we're trying to get them back. And what's your best advice on finding great people and then training and onboarding so that you get retention? There's recognition and rewards that go into that. And you started to talk about that. Can we unpeel that a little bit more and say, what are the keys to finding great people and then keeping them and making them into leaders that then grow our businesses? Because that is the key to success. And I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish there was a formula that I could point to. I think in the day, it comes down to, who are you working next to, and do you really enjoy working next to them? And I find themselves that people naturally like being around people they like, and they find a way to avoid people they don't like. It's real simple. And if you have somebody charismatic, a leader or manager or a boss or wherever, you find a way to work a little harder. You find a way to impress. You find a way to dig deep and do those things naturally that make the difference. And however, there's not everybody that is like that. A lot of people won't work a 9 to 5 job and don't want to put the extra time in. But if you have somebody that is charismatic enough and knows they value you personally, there's a saying: when you reach your hand out, are they willing to grab your hand? Naturally, you don't grab somebody's hand, but if you stick your hand out, are you going to grab my hand and let's go? And ultimately, I think that's a big piece of it today. Management styles is all these systems and practices and everything else, and they're trying to dictate. But I see the best leaders, the best owners They take this bottom up approach, like I shared, and they truly people step up and they just enjoy each other. And so if you don't have somebody that is tough to work for, that boss, it's I've been in it. I had companies that fortunately in my time period that I had those people too that I found a way to get the heck out of there. So
Excellent. Excellent. Let's talk about inflation, because that's a pain point for the end consumer as well as for the operator. Are you seeing inflation changing consumers' dining habits right now, or is that just a blip on the screen and people are all coming back as we still need the social aspects of going out to restaurants and it's a special night out, I'm going to spend the money because I just got to get out of the house? What are you seeing there?
we know that inflation last year was much more impactful, and I think now we're getting more stabilized. This year is very interesting. I mean, because inflation is less of an impact on cost of goods, but labor since 2020 has gone up about 30%. Cost of goods just
Totally.
under 30, and so you have major cost impacts. Inflation was covering up a lot of those. The traffic, which is, you went from after post COVID, really huge traffic swings, increases in traffic, to last year in the second half of the year stabilizing and coming down. But inflation covered up some of those numbers because there was price increases. But now I think this year is like probably the first year since 2019 that you have a real stabilized year. So I think how these restaurants deal with low inflationary environment and historical normal moderation and moderate traffic is really going to be interesting. Who comes out of 24 strong, I think is going to be it's going to be an eye-opening experience for many restaurants that, that this had a lot of the benefits of the post-COVID.
Okay, thanks for that. There's been a lot of restaurants that had a lot of longevity that were around for decades and then they just didn't stay relevant with their customer base as people aged out and they didn't keep up with younger growing populations, either the offspring of those people or whatever it is. I could give you examples. I'm sure you know your own. Do you see customer preferences in their dining choices changing at all or evolving? What are the trends? What are people looking for in dining experiences right now? And I use that word experiences because you're behind several experiential concepts, but what are people really looking for?
Roger, you teed me up pretty good with that, but it is experiential. I think that is changing. I think people don't want to spend 2 hours at a meal anymore, sitting down for a 2 hour dining experience. I just don't see it happening. Maybe for Mother's Day, like I did this past weekend, but ultimately, I want to, if you give me a choice to go to Putt Shack or F1 Arcade or some of our concepts that we invest in or social entertainment in general to do something with my time and have a better dining experience with better cocktails, that's going to win. It's going to win. And in today's environment, people the attention span is not their strength. I think they want to be entertained and they also want to have elevated food and dining experiences. And that's shifted in the last 5 years. Previous to the last 5 years, you did not have a good entertainment experience with elevated food and beverage. So this is a big change that's happened in our industry in the last 5 years, that entertainment experiences have figured it out, that they can impact frequency and reach with better dining, better food and beverage, and which increases the trade area, that you don't get the veto vote by somebody in your family or your friends. I don't want to go there because they have crappy food. It's a big impact in the industry. You can combine solid entertainment with elevated food and beverage. That's going to win. And you can see it. You can see it today with the concepts that are winning. People are voting with the pocketbook.
For sure. Do you see, obviously there's been a huge shift because the term used to be called eatertainment and Rainforest Cafe comes to mind so many years and years ago. Why do you think some of those concepts fell short? I know there was also a concept called Punch Bowl Social and they expanded and they had really big square footage locations and all that kind of stuff. And it was like a flash in the pan where it was hot 1 minute and then it's not like you're going to keep going back there because it's just same old. But your concepts are far removed from that and they're doing obviously much better and they have longevity and legs because people get together and they're doing fun things and they're eating really great food and they're getting really great service, but they're entertained at the same time versus this is a sit down experience and there's a volcano in the corner that goes off every 10 minutes. It didn't work.
Yeah, in the day, I want to tip my hat to those guys. I think there's lessons learned from the volcano erupting at Rainforest Cafe, and the experiential dining, and there was a lot of innovation there. And I think Robert Thompson, who did what he did with Punch Bowl Social, he saw a void in the market. However, those concepts fell short in a lot of ways too. Punch Bowl Social to me is a glorified bar, and you got to be hot and trendy, and you got a 15,000 square foot bar. You got to be it. You got to be the place, and or it's going to be tough to fill that 15,000 square foot. So you got to have elevated food again. And Rainforest Cafe, it's great to show the kids, and it lasted a long time. And that concept survived a lot longer than most, and it returned a lot of money to its shareholders. However, today, you don't have to, people don't want to give up a better dining experience if they don't have to for some entertainment. And that's what's happened. Like I was sharing about, they bringing in the elevated chef and figuring out how do you serve hand foods that you don't have to sit and cut in a dark space. Can you do it? Can you serve our octopus and throw a dart? Can you putt and eat a chicken skewer that's elevated? Can you get a margarita jalapeno margarita that you're like, this is really good. This is one of the best margaritas I've had. And if you can do that, then there's a lot of surprise and delight happening, and that people don't have that expectation. And that's what it used to be when you go to Punch Bowl Social. You have all these entertainment. There's that surprise and delight, just like Rainforest Cafe. There's a surprise and delight. You get a gorilla jumping out at you, and people want the unexpected. And the nice thing about entertainment is always dynamic and changing. So if you can combine these experiences, it's a winner.
So if a restaurant is hearing this and they want to come up with their own, say, experience of dining without having people sit at a table for 2 hours like you're talking about, maybe this is a new restaurant owner that says, what is really hot and dynamic, that's got legs, that isn't going to be old in the next 3 years, that sort of thing. What is the balance between throughput and revenue? You know what I'm saying? When you're keeping people's attention for a long period of time, and yeah, we finished our drinks, we finished our food, but we're still playing golf or whatever it is, are you really maximizing they're not table turns really, because people are moving around doing things, the throughput of getting people through a place, maximizing the revenue from every person coming through the door, and then getting new people in so that there's no downtime, there's no loss of revenue, and there's no loss of people gaming or doing whatever they do in these concepts. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Absolutely a balancer. It is a tricky thing. And I think I remember way back when Panera I don't know, this is probably a decade ago, when Panera introduced Wi-Fi, and they were like, oh my God, we made a mistake, because now people are sitting at those tables way too long.
Taking up the real estate. Yep.
Taking up the real estate. But a lot of the entertainment concepts we deal with and we work with today, the gaming revenue is really profitable because you're amortizing that cost into the overall build project. So the cost of goods essentially is zero, and the marginal profit margin on that gaming piece is near 100%. There's some cost to maintain the holes. There's some cost to do something there in the entertainment, but it's such high profit margin versus the traditional food and beverage margin that you're comfortable with or you're traditionally dealing with. So everybody we work with, it's a big exercise in the very beginning. Have you maximized the gaming revenue? It's not a loss leader. You got to make money on the gaming piece. And however, are you optimizing the square footage? And that's a very big challenge a lot of entertainment has, is if you take a lot of space, like pickleball today, everybody wants to talk about pickleball. I had 6 pitches in pickleball in 1 week. And the reality is, how efficient can you get with a pickleball court? There's only one dimension, as far as I know, and you're probably not eating too much while you're playing pickleball or drinking. So there's a lot of dynamics that go in. Just because it's entertainment doesn't mean it's going to be a winner. So you do need to think about the throughput, exactly what you said, and are you generating enough revenue to offset that space and that demand? And every market's different. The cost of square footage is very different in one market to the other. These are all things early on when you're trying to figure out, do you have a replicable concept that can really scale and be profitable, you got to consider.
Every restaurant needs signage that attracts attention and brings in the customers. Cirrus LED signs bring your business to life and increase customer traffic and sales. Cirrus's high-resolution LED technology is energy efficient and ensures maximum visibility for your operation. Cirrus signs are versatile and allow easy changing of content and displays. Best of all, with Cirrus, you can subscribe to pay with low monthly payments and no upfront costs. And now my listeners get the first 2 months free. Go to try.cirrusled.com/rockstar. That's try.cirrusled.com/rockstar. Rockstars. In my restaurants, the fried foods were cranking out of the kitchen. But dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease, what a hassle. Not only the high cost, but the mess of changing and recycling oil, scheduling cleanings. You've got more important things to run a great restaurant. Well, that's where Restaurant Technologies comes in. They serve 40,000 restaurant and hospitality customers in 41 major markets across the U.S. They handle everything end-to-end, from delivering, filtering, monitoring, collecting, and recycling your waste cooking oil. No more mess, safety hazards, workers' comp claims, or fried food quality issues. Plus, this frees up your labor and the cost to work on what matters, putting out the best food. Restaurant Technologies also eliminates the need for scheduling third-party hood cleanings. AutoMist can reduce the risk of fire with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. Restaurant Technologies customers can save 10 to 15% on their insurance premiums and even get bonuses for any new customer referrals. Control the kitchen chaos with Restaurant Technologies. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started today. Let's talk about emerging as a company, because you're very diversified, you're hospitality focused, you invest, but you also are partners in multiple companies. You're on supply chain side. I don't want to explain your company, but why don't you tell us about emerging, and then let's talk about some of the concepts that you've invested in and some that I've even had the chance to visit recently.
Thank you. Emerging is a fun. Emerging, we invest in restaurant technology and early stage concepts, usually 1 to 6 units on the concept side. And we're heavily invested in social entertainment, which is F1, Putt Shack, Flight Club, Versa Game Box. We have a new one that we're investing in called Bat Box, which really is going to be the top golf of baseball. And then we have great tech that we see that needs to be introduced to the market in a more dynamic, fast pace. And we see this as the future of the industry. Restaurant technology come together with early stage concepts to drive the most value for basically your local market to national scale, bringing these two things together, tech and early stage concepts together, where there's a major arbitrage opportunity in the market. Now, we have other operating companies that really drive the reason why we created the fund. We have a company called Buyer's Edge Platform, which we work with almost 1 out of 3 restaurants in the US today. It's traditionally a GPO. It's a group purchasing organization. We're the largest group purchasing organization. We work with about $35 billion to spend, over 1,000 chains. We have about 1,000 employees in our company. About 125 of them are engineers, is cleaning and normalizing data and providing these data insights to manufacturers and suppliers and operators and helping them make better decisions with their purchasing. We also have a consulting division in that company that people pay a monthly retainer and help us. We help them figure out their distribution and reduce the supply chain costs. We usually save them 3 times as much as they pay us. And then we have a technology division, and we've done a lot of M&A, a lot of purchases. We've acquired over 25 companies since 2019 on that and Buyer's Edge. So it's been a really successful company that my partner John Davey founded, and I was able to co-found a chain division with him called Consolidated Concepts that is in charge of all the chains that we expand or support the supply chain. And then we have a real estate division, a real estate company that called Emerging Concepts that is doing strategy and expansion for these early stage concepts and building brands. Essentially, our passion for emerging concepts is building restaurant entertainment brands. And we take a heavy data approach. We're looking at the point of sale data, the mobile data, purchase data. We're taking all the data feeds and build a data strategy first, where we should optimize that brand value. And then ultimately our real estate execution team goes and finds those sites, negotiates those terms, and maximizes the return for the investors.
It's all fascinating stuff, and it impacts just about every facet of this industry. Let's dive into buyer's edge a little bit more for our audience that's listening. Is there a certain level they need to be at or certain factors in order for them to qualify to work with buyer's edge? Because buyer's edge is also diversified. It's not just a, like you said, a group purchasing organization, but there's also back of house software that automates all the necessary processes in your restaurant as well. But can anyone get involved in this if I got one single location, or do you require to be a restaurant group? How does that work? Rockstars, when I needed equipment from my former restaurants, I called Restaurant Equippers. Restaurant Equippers has served independent food service operators just like you going on 60 years. You'll find all the top names and extensive inventory at their huge warehouse stores in Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. You can shop equippers.com or call their national order office at 800-235-3325. Their experienced specialists will help you get the best equipment and supplies and save you money. Thousands of name brand products are available for immediate store pickup or shipment. Just like me, when you need something, you need it now. Restaurant Equippers will make sure you get the equipment and supplies you need when you need them at a price you want to pay. They shop the world to find the best products and value. Give Restaurant Equippers a call for all your equipment and supply needs, or check their website, equippers.com. Everyone has a birthday, and people celebrate birthdays in restaurants. Birthdays bring larger parties that spend 40% more on the guest check. Plus, most birthdays happen in the middle of the week when you want more business. Are you getting this? Larger parties, larger checks, midweek business traffic? Is your restaurant capturing the birthday business? If not, don't let these birthday celebrations go to the competition. The Birthday Club is a done-for-you, soup-to-nuts service where they handle everything and send you the birthday business. It's a piece of cake. Go to jointhebirthdayclub.com/birthdayrockstar.
No, actually, the company was founded with the division today is known as Dining Alliance. And Dining Alliance started in upstate New York, and John and his dad started bringing independent restaurants together, the local pizza shop and a couple of the local diner together, and saying, we're to aggregate this buying power, but give him access to better contracts, better distribution, transparency with the manufacturers, and just drive down costs. And he was able to, pick up way back in 1999 when he started it, 1%, 2%. Now we're streamlining a lot of dollars out of your distribution. But Dining Alliance today works with almost 100,000 restaurants, independent restaurants around the country, onesie-twosies. So that we love independence. We love small operators. That's where everybody starts with one. So right. We absolutely love supporting those early entrepreneurs.
If we think of the largest food service suppliers in this country, I almost liken them to the big three in the auto industry. Obviously, you got your GM, your Ford, and your Chrysler, and obviously there's PFG and there's Cisco and US Foods and all those companies. Do you work with one exclusive? Do you work with all of them? Do you work with other companies as well? Like when you have a buying group, there's leverage, of course. There's huge economies of scale. Every one of these suppliers wants the biggest market share they can get every single year, get more penetration in restaurants. Do you work with multiple companies, or how does that work?
Yeah, on the supply chain side, Buyer's Edge is for the most part distributor neutral. There's certain divisions that work and more often with others, but the reality is we put the client's interest first. We work for the operator. We don't work for a manufacturer. We don't work for a distributor. We work for the operator. So we wearing that cap allows us to be distributor neutral and look through that lens of what's the best for the client, and that works out really well for us.
That's terrific. Fantastic. Let's dive into some of the concepts. Now, I had a chance to visit several of them in Boston a couple of weeks back. Thanks for your kind invitation. But why don't you bring those concepts to life to our audience that may have never walked in the door, and what differentiates them from other restaurant choices right now?
Yeah, so you're talking specifically about F1 Arcade and Putt Shack?
Flight Club, Putt Shack, F1.
Flight Club.
You mentioned all three of those names. I had a chance to check them all out. Super impressive stuff. Really dynamic, very well received. People having a great time. But bring those concepts to life as if I'm visiting it for the first time.
Yeah, I'll start with Flight Club because that's where our evolution in the social entertainment was an early one for us. We started working with, and it was a concept out of the UK. Everybody plays darts, but if you go to, it's not too sexy, right? And you're not going to find too many attractive females usually playing darts, if I can say that. But this concept, F1, tracks 60% female. And it's great. It's a great night out. And it's using the difference of this game is, or this experience, it's automatic scoring of darts. So it's tracking that dart within 2 millimeter accuracy. You're using a real dart board. In fact, a lot of the technology was, if you look at it back at tech in the data, it says aim, fire. It's using ICBM, missile defense contract language. That's what helped them. They hired a defense contractor to help them build the tech. It's just a great experience. A pub, and there's 2 locations in the UK, London, that were built, and we were just blown away. And then we had the chance to expand them in the US. And so we started working with them and building out the footprint and expansion. So it's an awesome concept. We got locations and many markets and opening more this year. And then we have Putt Shack, which is from the founders of Top Golf. I remember the Jolliffe brothers, I went and visited before they opened the first one in London. And they're like, this is going to be bigger than Top Golf. And I'm like, really? Top Golf was a big name at that time, even then. And this is in 2000. And they were thinking on the holes and figuring out, they're talking about miniature golf. They're talking about these miniature golf balls and mini golf. And I'm like, how's this bigger? And they're like, the addressable market. And everybody can play miniature golf. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And today, Putt Shack is on a major tear, like doing an amazing job, very profitable business. Awesome, 25, 30,000 feet. We've got 18 locations around the country. And it's beautiful. You get kids in the day. You have a lot of corporate business in the afternoons. You've got this great crowd in the evening hours. It turns into a party late at night. Adam Breeden is a co-founder with the Jolliffe brothers. And Adam is really the father of social entertainment. He's working with Flight Club. He worked with Putt Shack and a co-founder, and now he is the founder of F1 Arcade. So I've been privileged and honored to work with Adam Breeden for some time. And now F1 is the latest one, which I think, Roger, that's where you and I synced up.
Racing side by side.
Racing simulators, and I think you were crushing me in a simulator. But this awesome experience, F1 is it's a first partnership, global license deal with Formula One. So you got an iconic brand, and now there's an iconic concept on top of the iconic brand. You got these simulators, the real racing simulators, F1 simulators, and that they have allowed from a novice to amateur to a professional level of play, wrapped in this elevated, beautiful F&B experiences that you expect champagne toast all day long. And it's just absolutely stunning and beautiful space, and just a great fun experience as you race your buddies to corporate events. You can spend hours there, and it flies by. And the adrenaline that you're on when you're racing it's just intense.
I was particularly impressed with the quality of the food and beverage as well as the service. And that is so important because people are really going not just for the food and beverage, but the whole experience. But you expect the ambiance to be exciting. You expect the food and drinks to be great, but you also expect to get an elevated level of service. And I think you hit all 3 on the head there. All 3 of these concepts are really delivering on all 3 levels and not falling short in any one. Let's go back quickly to that throughput conversation we were having a little while ago. Do all these take about the same amount of time? What's the average time that a customer or a guest, I like to call them, will spend with their group in any of these concepts? And to maximize those revenues, to have a couple of drinks, to have some food, to have some fun, playing the games, throwing darts, putting the balls, whatever it is. Is there an average to some?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'd have to get back to you to give you a real accurate number on that. My perception is, and from the initial conversations we had, it's over an hour, and it's somewhere between an hour and 2 hour stay. But I can tell you, when you're booking for an hour, for the most part, and you have a chance to extend it pretty easily in these places, but usually it's tough to get in. So good luck getting in. But if you're booking in advance enough, you can extend it well beyond that hour. You can pre-order your food in most of these concepts. There's an expectation. You can in Putt Shack, you can reserve your table before or after you're playing 9 holes. In Flight Club, you can schedule your food to be delivered right away. And in F1, very similar, but you have your tables and it's easy to eat and grab food. And you, like you said, the hostess is there to make sure you're getting your cocktails right away. And so it'll be interesting to see F1 the first week they had 30,000 pre-booked reservations.
Yep. Awesome.
So it's pretty amazing. That's a Boston Seaport was the first one we opened in the US. That's the third unit overall. It's just crushing it.
This whole idea of experiences is providing multiple profit centers in a business. I think you mentioned earlier, you don't want someone sitting at your table at a full serve place for 2 hours and you order food and you order drinks and you're trying to turn your tables. Now you're selling food, you're selling drinks, and you're selling experiences as well. So you're getting that multiple revenue stream coming in, it's just smart, right? And then you can sell retail merchandise and all those other things are additional profit centers. How do you maximize the spend on every person that walks in the door is what we're all trying to do in any restaurant, really. Mm-hmm. So you're hitting all the heads there. But yeah, particularly impressed with the quality of the food and beverage. The food was outstanding. And your flatbread pizzas, and we were eating sliders, and really just everything tasted super fresh. The drinks were really well done. The presentations were great. So I had a really great time. So I was really intrigued with those concepts. And the mini golf thing, this is not your parents' or your grandparents' miniature golf course. You're not putting through fiberglass dinosaurs and windmills and all that kind of stuff. It was like, there was a drum kit, right? And you putt the ball and the ball is bouncing off of this drum and then that drum and then that drum. And it's like every hole is like uniquely thought out and different. And every hole was a different experience as opposed to just trying to get it through the dinosaur's leg or whatever it was. It was pretty slick.
Yeah. The golf ballers are smart. Top Golf was at the chip. And
the smart balls,
golf ball, right?
For sure.
Smart balls. And then what they recognize with Putt Shack is there's a bigger opportunity. So that golf ball is a computer. I don't want to tell you what they're worth because there will probably have to be a raid on those golf balls.
You'll lose them.
But they're very expensive golf balls.
Yeah.
And they're a computer. So it tags you you personally to that ball. And so it knows when you pick it up, it knows when it hits the hole. And it's a very different game than when you have automatic scoring than you would grandma's mentor golf course, to your point.
Definitely. That's really cool. Let's talk about the marketing strategies for these different concepts, because marketing is on everyone's mind today. And unfortunately, far too many restaurants spend money on experiments and they don't know if there's an ROI and let's try that and let's try this, but that's a formula unto itself. What is the key to getting 30,000 reservations for F1? It's excitement must be built. Awareness must be built. Initial trial, like all that stuff. It's everything. But what's your idea of successful marketing formula?
Yeah, hire the right CMO. I can tell you that's where it starts.
Of course.
And all these teams have done an amazing job of bringing in experienced, talented marketing teams. But in each group I've seen them open very differently. I've seen different approaches. There's what Flight Club did. A lot of times it's a softer opening. They don't hit it as hard. Putt Shack was somewhere between, but just very seasoned. Susan Rumsley, she's their CMO. She's former CMO of Top Golf. So Susan's now CMO and COO of Putt Shack. Super talented woman who understands how to build that kind of that social media tidal wave that you need towards opening. And then you were at the opening. The week before the 18th was the grand opening of F1, but they had 10 athletes that were professional athletes. And most of those guys were the New England Patriots at the opening.
Influencers, that is part of the strategy.
Influencers. Yeah, 400 people in that opening. Most of that room was filled with people that have social media impact. And I got myself in there somehow because I have very little social media impact, but compared to what this team has and that what they brought in. So ultimately, I think it's today's influence in TikTok can't be understated. The people are producing their own content. And if you have, as much as you have a great CMO, you just got to have a good experience. And if you have a great experience, people will record it and get it out there.
That's awesome. Now, data is a huge part of what you do, and data mining across so many restaurants and this entire industry that can benefit the concepts that you invest in. What are some of those key data points that some restaurants are missing out on that they could be capturing?
Yeah, we love to track just traditional data that you get through the POS, but everybody's sitting on tons of data. Like everybody, and it used to be like data, give me more data, and everybody was telling you you need to capture more data. But the reality is, what are you doing with your data?
Thank you.
And
Absolutely.
and
It's worthless if you don't
and
execute on what you learn.
exactly. And a lot of people don't sit down and they're running so lean and so hard. Nobody's analyzing the data. So it's not a matter of even everybody's sitting on the same data set for the most part. Your POSs are API friendly today. Your mobile data is accessible there's a bunch of great mobile data companies that you can access the data, mobile data. There's spend data you can analyze. We look at pretty much every data set, frequency, loyalty, programs. We want to pool all that data in. And then we want to decide, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to grow a brand? Are we looking for the next site? If we're looking at next sites, then we use a lot of that mobile data, the point of sale data to look at the frequency, the demographic of who's coming in, who are your VIPs. Traditionally, it's crazy. Like it could be 5% of your guests amount for 50% of your sales. Mm-hmm. If you have a high frequency experience, it doesn't take much. Traditionally, it's 20 to 30, it's over to 50%. And those are your VIPs. And then you have another 20 to 30% that take you up to about 80%. And then everybody else is infrequent after that. So you really got to understand who your VIP guests are. Most people think they know who their guests are, your VIPs are, but funny enough, they don't. They talk about who that person is. But the reality is when you get into the data, it's somebody different or slightly different. And so really understanding who your VIP customer is, which amounts to about 50% of your sales. That's the driver to make real estate decisions. That's the driver to make better menu decisions for the most part. That's the driver of if your VIPs are comping up, your number of VIP guests week to week, and we're looking at them weekly. Are you increasing VIPs or are your people converting? If your VIP levels are like, a VIP turns after 4 to 5 visits in a 6-month period, are those VIPs tailing off or are you increasing? Are you turning consistent infrequents to your core customer base, which may be 3 to 5, and then the VIPs 5 and up? I don't know. It just depends on your experience. But are you in an upward trajectory or are you flat? And usually when people are looking at data, it's after the fact. It's too late or it's really difficult to turn around. So you want to be on top of it. You already have the data. You just need to you got to take time to look at it. And you need to have, there's enough companies out there today that know how to look at data that can help you.
Yeah, every restaurant has had to obviously go with online ordering platforms and all this kind of stuff. And one of the pet peeves is not only the cost of some of that, but also the fact that those companies own the data when a restaurant should own their data, if in fact they're analyzing it and getting the benefit of who are these customers and how frequent are they coming back and what's the average spend and some of those other KPIs that are really important. But that's just one of the 1,000 details of running a restaurant. Do you have time? Where's the bandwidth? What is the best use of your time to maximize the opportunities in your operation, for sure. And you guys got that dialed. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about something else that I really found interesting. This company called Tables. It's a platform. I'm not going to explain it. You explain it. It's really interesting, and it seems like the future for sure, and another revenue stream. There you go.
Yeah, an emerging investment of ours was Tables, and we identified, it was actually our earliest investment we've made in restaurant tech so far, because we saw an opportunity to really carve a new area, a new niche in the industry. There's so many restaurants have great tables, just the table by the window, the table overlooking the water, table next to the patio. And are you getting any increase in price or any dynamic pricing on that table? And you're probably not. And so there's an opportunity to monetize the real estate, and which also provides an opportunity for dynamic pricing because the high demand periods for those tables that you have are during those busy periods. So ultimately, tables allows you to basically take your tables, and usually it's around 8 to 10% of your tables are these premium or highly selected tables or highly sought after tables, and allows you to put up monetize it. Sometimes it's $5, sometimes it's hundreds of dollars. And people pay this amount of money, and then they get this table reserved for them. Using your traditional reservation system, open table or Resi, that doesn't change. Nothing changes.
Right.
That reservation goes into, that table goes into your Resi or open table platform, that reservation like it traditionally does, but you've got this new revenue stream. And we've got restaurants now generating over $100,000 in incremental revenue. And that's all profit. You take $100,000 and a 20% margin, that's like somebody going in and handing you a $500,000 check. So it's a big deal. So tables, we love what it's doing, and I think we're just getting it out. We've got over a couple hundred restaurants at this point, but all the bigger influence, the movers and shakers in the food and beverage space are already gravitating towards it.
I think it got our attention because there's always people willing to pay for that better table or that more exclusive experience or whatever it is, and you can curate these things and market these things, and again, additional revenue stream, happy, satisfied guests, repeat business. All these things are byproducts of that, so that's pretty cool. So we spent a good amount of time talking about service restaurants or full serve that have staffs and whatnot, and labor is still a challenge, but we do have a quick serve audience as well, and you're behind something called Botrista. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Botrista is one of our most recent restaurant tech investments. We love it. We as restaurant owners, we've seen non-alcohol revenue go from like 20% decades ago to around 6 to 8% non-alcohol revenue. And the reason why, because everybody's buying or asking for water. And the reason why, obviously there's good reasons we want people to drink water, but that's impacting the bottom line of these restaurants. And the reason why you don't have a higher quality non-alcohol drink at restaurants is the labor associated with it. Do you really want to be mixing, shaking, and pumping whatever you got to do on a drink in the middle of the day, which takes time away? So if it's not coming out of a Pepsi or a Coke dispenser or fountain machine, you're probably not serving it. Or if it is, it's in maybe a bubbler. And just because of labor, you're going to wait till your bartender shows up late at night to serve those fancy drinks. So we saw an opportunity with Botrista to serve these better quality, healthier drinks during the day, high margin drinks for that guests want, the kiwi lemonades of the world, the frappuccinos, do anything. They can pretty much, they got any combination you could think of. And the cool thing about Botrista was built by a Tesla engineer during COVID. He just happened to invest in a bubble tea company when he was in San Francisco working for Tesla, and he saw all the mixing and shaking, what was going on to make a bubble tea, and he said, man, it would be easy, it would be great if we could make a machine that does this work. And 93 patents later, he has this machine, and we've invested it early, and the revenues have gone like 20x in a year from when we initially invested, and the pipeline is crazy. So you got a lot of QSRs, fast casual concepts jumping on it right away. But we're really excited about the Botrista investment.
Cool. What do you think about all the robotics that are out there in this industry now? Like I went to the NRA show last year, and there must have been 15 or 20 robotics companies there with all kinds of service, this and that. And I've always believed that technology should enhance hospitality and never replace it. But with this labor crisis, it's a fine line between losing that personal guest touch and replacing it with technology that does things that a human would do. What do you think about that?
We definitely see an opportunity. It's as much as anything everybody does. Labor is not getting cheaper. So right. Machines are gonna be in the kitchen. And so where do you start? And we love a few areas, like Botrista is an example of that in the back house, but we see more robotic situations. Like there's a company called Invibu's working with, I don't know if I can say it or not, but I will, Chipotle, and sure. And they're producing an avocado machine. Oh, they can. I think, because I remember Chipotle did mention something under earnings I don't know if they mentioned the company, but anyways, what Vibu is doing is create the avocado machine that the labor of cutting an avocado, taking that core, getting the pit out is not easy. And usually it's around 70 to 80% you get of the meat out. And this company, the avocado machine by Vibu, is taking like 98% of the meat out. And so that estimate is about $30 million impact for Chipotle, 30 million of savings, revenue, savings, or cost savings, excuse me.
Right. Totally get it.
And then it's also on top of it, it's better for your staff. I don't know how many people really want to cut avocados, but I can't imagine that's high on the request. And so you got a machine that's doing this for you and allow your staff to be more efficient doing other things. So things like that. They're making a sauce maker today, and it just naturally, there's different areas that we see robotics being a big part of, and so we're excited about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of opportunities, and you guys sound like you can see around corners and what's the next biggest thing. That's awesome.
I don't know. Hopefully. But...
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What have we missed, Mathew? Anything else you want to talk about? We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, no, it's great chatting with you. We're just really excited about the fund and investing in these areas. This is a first-time fund for us. We've put our own money in, a lot of our own money in these investments, and it's a big piece. Emerging fund is we try to be on the cutting edge, but it really comes down to we have 76 LPs in our fund, and majority of them are CEOs and founders in the industry. Just great people that see the same opportunities and are networks by themselves. I feel really fortunate to have an opportunity to work with these leaders in the space, and they're really, they feed us ideas. They feed us where areas that they're tight, things that they're concerned about, and where they see opportunities. So we're lucky to be in this position.
Fantastic. It's been great talking to you, Mathew. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Thanks so much to our audience for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors. We can't wait to see you all in the next episode. So stay well and stay tuned.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.